And now it's time for our weekly energy update with Dan McTeague, president at Canadians for Affordable Energy.
Well, hello, Teresa, and another week past the federal election as we head now towards warmer temperatures. Summer demand driving begins to kick in. And of course, the overhang of tariffs as well as very poor job numbers all will weigh on energy prices over the next couple of weeks. But if we're starting to look at across the country, Maritime saw about a 2-cent decrease. That'll be the last before they start to see some increases next week. Quebec, Ontario have seen a couple of days here of increasing prices. And of course, we're looking at net increases of about 4 to 6 cents a liter next week, as opposed to the 2-cent a liter drop, more or less, that we saw in the past week. Western Canada, we'll see a little bit more from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, probably upward pressure, about 3 to 4 cents a liter. They're between $1.26 and $1.35. And that's, of course, with very tight retail margins. That is to say, gasoline stations aren't doing so well. They're picking up maybe 3 or 4 cents a liter on average. Interior BC remaining the 150, 55 range. So Kelowna, Kamloops, Prince George. When we go down to Vancouver, we've seen some pretty eye-popping numbers to do with West Coast U.S. refineries, especially in California, and higher demand. We've seen prices move from 164 to 178, which is what it will be come Saturday. A good part of Vancouver, to about 4 cents behind in Victoria at $1.74. Of course, all this information is available at affordableenergy.ca, my site, as well as its sister site, gaswizard.ca, which many of you have been using for years. What we're looking at, though, is a bit of an anomaly. Energy prices are heading up because there's potential resolution of some of the tariff trade talks between the United States and China. We know that the UK had a deal with the Trump administration, which of course means a lessening of tariff tensions on that small front, but a lesson for Canada that continues to have these significant tariffs at a time in which we are literally bleeding jobs. We know that we have a pretty serious debt situation. Fitch bond rating agency has made it very clear that if Mark Carney, the new prime minister, proceeds with an additional $225 billion in spending without any complementary growth in the private sector, we are going to be looking for a credit downgrade, which would mean higher interest rates. On that note, Teresa, I should point out that while people have observed decreases at the Bank of Canada's rate, we haven't seen so in terms of mortgaging. And of course, the comments made yesterday by Tiff Macklem, although they were very guarded language, they were very alarming if you parsed some of the comments about that we might have just about a year left in terms of our ability to use monetary resources to fend off what is likely to be a significant recession in Canada. Of course, all this wasn't just happening this week. This was true in the last election, but a lot of Canadians chose to elbows up and ignore it. Well, now your elbows are up high enough that you're going to be pickpocketed. You're going to have a lot less in that wallet. And I think a lot more people are going to be staring down the barrel of bankruptcy as the economy continues to stagnate. We have nothing that attracts the world towards buying Canadian products that can't be based elsewhere. Our resource sector has been hobbled. Our manufacturing sector has already been, to a large extent, halved out, sort of carved out, if you will, over the years with this belief that we don't need to manufacture. All of these things are bad from a climate test point of view, but it's starting to boomerang. And I think that's why the younger generation moved the way it did against the establishment over the past 10 years, that international norms and international agendas have no business in Canada. It's certainly going to eclipse their future, and that future appears to be now. So I would say the energy crisis has always been sort of the canary in the coal mine. We have seen, and I have observed the concern about inflationary effect of carbon taxes and other myriad net zero policies, which are going to devastate further not only affordability in Canada, but also the willingness for an incentivization of people to get out and to invest money and to be more productive. We know that small business is facing a number of challenges, not just with the tariffs, but with higher costs. One thing to observe, Teresa, this time next week, around the a week and a half, around the 20th of May, we are going to see a substantial decrease in inflation because gas prices are down April 2024 versus April 2025 because we put that ridiculous carbon tax in place to begin with, and it's likely to come back, by the way. We're going to like to see a net decrease of about 25 to 30 cents a liter. There are other factors as well that contributed to that. And that would mean that rather than the 2.4, 2.5 headline inflation, it might be down to 1.4, 1.5. So mark my words on this. You're going to hear everybody talking about it as if it's a new revelation, but you heard it here first on the news forum when I did, in fact, take the time to digest this information. So on May 20th, expect a major decrease in inflation, which will, of course, force the Bank of Canada to drop interest rates and not take a wait-and-see approach as they did last time. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see lower consumer interest rates or mortgage rates. So this is the conundrum Canadians find themselves in. 10 years of spending money and being reckless and driving away investments has a cost. And it may very well be on things that we never took for granted. So while some people content themselves with saying everything's just fine and orange-haired man bad south of the border, the fear mongering that went on over the past several weeks. We saw that fear in 2021 with COVID. We saw it again in 2029 with climate. If Canadians are going to be inspired by fear and distracted from the real hard evidence of the failing economy, then there really is no hope. And one would hope that if in all of this, Canadians finally get a taste of the medicine that has been that they've wished for many years in trying to walk away from the very things that stabilize and increase our economy: responsible migration, responsible spending plans, and the ability to attract investors in the sectors of the economy that we do very well at. That's our energy, our oil, our gas, and other mining minerals, as well as taking on the regulators who seem to be operating on the assumption that we can continue to, shut these things down. But the reality is that we're going to continue to see, if anything, lower prices over the summer because the economy is faltering. I hope I'm wrong, but I can tend to believe, Teresa, when I make predictions, you tend to be right and they tend to be remarkably accurate. So wait for May 20th, drop in inflation, but that's a sign that we shouldn't have had these carbon taxes or any of these net zero, crazy liberal Mark Carney, Justin Trudeau policies to begin with.